Imagine this, you're sitting in a small, dimly lit room in California. Across from you is a man in simple robes, his hands folded loosely in his lap. He says almost nothing, yet somehow his silence feels louder than your thoughts. You've built machines that change the world, but your mind feels restless, chaotic, desperate for meaning. You're Steve Jobs. And the man sitting before you, the one who barely speaks, is the quiet force that will teach you how to see differently, think differently, and create differently. His name is Kobun Chino Otogawa. Jobs didn't find Kobun by accident. After dropping out of Reed College and traveling through India in the 1970s, he returned to California, hungry for something that science couldn't give him. India had given him glimpses of transcendence, but not structure. He was searching for a system, a way to live with clarity and purpose. That's when he met Kobun, a Japanese Zen monk who had come to the United States to teach meditation. Unlike other teachers, Kobun didn't preach. He embodied stillness. His lessons weren't about religion or doctrine, they were about presence. For a young man as fiery and ambitious as Jobs, this was completely foreign. Jobs lived in extremes, intense creativity followed by explosive frustration. Kobun saw this energy and didn't try to suppress it. Instead, he guided Jobs toward discipline through simplicity. He told him, "You must empty your mind before you can fill it with truth." To Jobs, this wasn't poetry, it was instruction. Through years of mentorship, Kobun reshaped how Jobs viewed the world. Simplicity wasn't just about clean design, it was a mental and spiritual practice. In Zen, simplicity means reducing everything, your thoughts, your environment, your actions, down to what's essential. It's not the absence of complexity, it's mastery over it. Jobs learned that when you strip away the unnecessary, what remains must be perfect. This lesson became the backbone of Apple's philosophy. You can see it in every curve of the iPhone, in the quiet hum of a MacBook, in the way the company's devices communicate an almost spiritual calm through their form. When Jobs said, "Simplicity is the ultimate sophistication," he wasn't quoting a marketing slogan. He was echoing Kobun's teachings. Every product meeting, every design debate, carried that silent influence. If something felt cluttered, Jobs would ask, "What are we trying to say?" A question that could have come straight from a Zen master. Kobun taught that every design, like every thought, has weight. If the weight is unnecessary, remove it. The iPod S iconic scroll wheel wasn't born out of technology, it was born out of subtraction. Jobs didn't ask, "What can we add?" He asked, "What can we take away?" That is the same mindset Zen carpenters use when they build a tea house. They cut away everything that distracts from the essence. But Kobun's most powerful lesson came not from words, but from silence. He introduced Jobs to Zazen, the practice of just sitting. There was no goal, no mantra, no visualization. You sit, you breathe, you observe. The mind screams, you let it. The body aches, you let it. And slowly, without effort, a stillness forms, not because the chaos disappears, but because you stop fighting it. For Jobs, this practice was torture at first. He was used to control, to forcing outcomes. Sitting in silence felt like death, but over time, he began to see what Kobun meant, that real power comes not from effort, but from stillness. In meditation, Jobs confronted his own chaos, the perfectionism, the insecurity, the fear of failure, and learned to let it pass. This training didn't make him less intense, it made his intensity focused. He learned to observe before reacting, to sense when an idea felt wrong, not because of data, but because of intuition. That intuition became Apple's secret weapon. While other companies chased trends, Jobs pursued clarity. His ability to sense what felt right wasn't luck. It was mindfulness in action. The iPhone, the iMac, the iPad, each was a physical expression of Zazen. Every curve, every button, every silence between beeps was designed to feel effortless, natural, inevitable. Jobs wasn't designing products, he was designing experiences of calm. Kobun saw the fire in Jobs and admired it, but he also feared it. One day, during a quiet walk in the hills, he warned Jobs, "Your gift will destroy you if you worship it." He meant that ambition without awareness consumes itself. Jobs wanted to build the future, but Kobun reminded him that even the future must be met in the present moment. "Don't chase enlightenment," Kobun said once. "Sit still. Let it find you." That advice might sound simple, but it carried profound meaning. In Zen, the more you cling to success or identity, the further you drift from truth. Kobun taught Jobs non-attachment, to create passionately, but not possessively. This was hard for him. Jobs's ego was both his engine and his burden. He could see beauty with terrifying clarity, but he could also destroy relationships in pursuit of it. Kobun never tried to correct him. He simply reflected him, like a mirror showing both the brilliance and the cracks. Years later, when Jobs was ousted from Apple in 1985, that teaching came back to save him. The fall was public and humiliating, but instead of collapsing, Jobs retreated inward. He spent time reflecting, building next, buying Pixar, and practicing silence. Kobun's voice lingered. "What you lose is not who you are." When Jobs eventually returned to Apple, he was sharper, calmer, more grounded. He didn't talk about enlightenment, but he lived it through precision. In Zen temples, monks are taught to sweep the same floor every morning, not because it's dirty, but because the act itself keeps the mind clean. Jobs applied that same principle to Apple's work. Every product was a floor to be swept again and again. Each iteration was an act of meditation, ruthless refinement until nothing unnecessary remained. Kobun once said, "Form is emptiness and emptiness is form." That became an invisible mantra at Apple. The minimal design wasn't just aesthetic, it was spiritual. The emptiness of white space, the silence between sounds, the balance between form and function, all of it reflected the monk's influence. The products weren't just tools, they were expressions of harmony between technology and human awareness. But there was another deeper lesson Kobun left Jobs with: the understanding that perfection is never final. In Zen, even the most beautiful garden must be raked again the next morning. The act of refinement is endless. Jobs took that literally. He once told his team, "Real artists ship," meaning that the pursuit of perfection isn't about finishing, it's about committing to the process. Every product was a living meditation, a continuous practice in simplicity. When Kobun died tragically in 2002 while trying to save his daughter from drowning, Jobs was devastated. He lost not just a teacher, but a mirror. In his eulogy, Jobs didn't talk about Zen, Apple, or success. He simply said, "He saw who I was before I did." That line captures everything about their relationship. Kobun didn't give Jobs answers, he gave him awareness. He taught him that simplicity isn't the opposite of complexity, it's its mastery. That clarity built not just devices, but a new way of thinking about technology itself. If you look closely at an iPhone, you're not just seeing a product, you're seeing meditation in motion. You're seeing a philosophy of being present, of removing the unnecessary, of finding beauty in precision. You were seeing the quiet echo of a monk who believed that true design and true life begins only when the noise fades. That's the legacy of Kobun, Chino, Otogawa, and Steve Jobs. Not just the machines they made, but the mindset they revealed. The union of Silicon Valley and Zen wasn't an accident. It was the meeting of two disciplines that sought the same thing: perfection through simplicity, awareness through design. In the end, Jobs' success wasn't built on technology, it was built on presence, the same presence he learned sitting on the floor beside a quiet monk. The same presence that turned chaos into clarity and ambition into art. And that's the greatest innovation of all, not the computer in your hand, but the silence behind it. If you enjoyed this story and want to explore more about how philosophy, discipline, and human struggle shape genius, make sure to like, comment, and subscribe to The Fictionist, where we uncover the hidden truths behind the world's most fascinating minds.